Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to yet another installment of Coffee Chats. We took a little bit of a
Woo.
break, but anyways, this is a holiday special, and we're so excited to have you guys. So, I'm just so glad to be joined with my, co-host and like overall iconic human being, Mackenzie Finklea.
Hello.
So Mackenzie, is there anything in particular that you're doing for the holiday season that you're excited about?
I'm excited to go somewhere different this holiday season. We never go on a family vacation around Christmas, and this time we are just because I don't know. But I'm really
That's so
looking forward to
cool.
it. Never done it before. Looking forward to a new tradition.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, I think I'm most looking forward to. So, my family, kind of similar to yours, we are trying to transition more, especially since everybody's a little bit older, transition more towards experience gifts over
Yes.
like, so it's like more
Yep.
experience gifts than product gifts.
Right.
And
That's
I
what we're
think that's
doing.
going to
No
be like,
presents, but we're all going on a trip.
yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I love the holidays and how and seeing how different people celebrate them. But speaking of celebrations, in honor of the special holiday editions of Coffee Chats, we're so excited to bring on two incredible authors that have gone through the manuscripts program. So without further ado, drum roll please. Let's welcome our authors. Hello,
Hello, hello.
hello.
I have to say,
Hello,
So
how are
I'm
you?
Kira. I missed the "Hello, you beautiful people" welcome for so many months. So hearing it again just brought back so many memories. So I just want to kick it off by saying, it's just great to hear
uh,
that
uh,
introduction.
thank you. Yeah. I've been told it's become a signature phrase of mine, and I'm going to embrace that. But
Mm-hmm.
without further ado, would you two like to introduce yourselves? Let's start with Tom.
Okay, good. My name is Tom Weirich. I recently have become the author of "We Took the Risk," which hit bookstores on October 1st of this year. And my day job is working obviously in renewable energy. I work at EDP Renewables, which is the fourth largest producer of renewables globally, the fourth largest owner of wind energy in the US. And as you probably guessed, my book was about renewables and about the early risk takers in renewable energy. So I had a lot of fun with the book. And it's kind of crazy to think that, Cleola, both she and I have survived this process, right? We're at the tail end of it. So excited to, garner some wisdom upon you all and have a great conversation today.
Survived. Yeah.
Well, what about you, Cleola?
Is that it? Ready for me?
All
Hello, I'm
Mm-hmm.
you. All
Cleola
you.
Davis. Talking to you all from beautiful Raleigh, North Carolina. I am unemployed, meaning I'm retired. And I am the author of Forged in Battle, African American serving in the United States. What I may have done before I retired. I served in the United States Army for about 23 years. And I finished my book with Tom's cohort in September 2022. And my book has been on sale since September 2022 and it's doing very well. I'm very happy with the book. Thank you, New Degree Press, Kyra, all the guys that helped us pull me along because I'm a logistician, not a writer. Yet everyone loves me as an author. Thank you so much for having me for
Yay!
tea or coffee, but I'm ready to spill tea.
Oh,
Mackenzie
we
and
love to
Kyra.
see it.
Good to see you again, Tom.
Good to see you too.
Oh, this is going to be such a good time. I also want to very quickly call out the beautiful product placement for both of you, like the positioning of your book covers in the background. Chef's kiss, amazing, just wonderful all
We,
around.
we learned from the best. We learned from the best, Kira.
Is it obvious?
It's great. I was just leaning because I was looking for mine and I was like, oh no, I moved. I put something else there.
That's so cool. All right, beautiful people. So let's get things started with our first official question. So we could alternate in terms of who answers first, but to get things started, when was the moment you knew you wanted to write a book?
Oh gosh, so I can kick it off. It was funny how life, when you look back at things in life and, things work out and you're like, it looks like it's been beautifully orchestrated when it really wasn't. And I'm a big believer of karma and fate in life. And so, yeah, no, the way it happened for me was, the kind of momentum of why I wanted to write the book was to really honor a mentor of mine who passed away, who I missed his funeral. And I really, he deserved more from me. And I thought, okay, let me write an op-ed just to honor his life and give his story rebirth right out there in the markets and really give laud to him. And it's funny, I in my mind said, okay, I'm going to write this op-ed. And the minute I decided to write the op-ed, I get this call from Eric Kester going, hey, you need to write, you need to write a book about renewables, right? And Eric had been after me for 4 years and I kept on declining. But that moment that Eric called me, and with me in my mind saying, okay, I need to do something for Bill, was just like Bill Holmberg speaking from heaven going, you must do this. And so that was the moment, that I felt, okay, there's no such things as coincidences in life. I don't believe in coincidences. And I said, okay, well, here's this op-ed for Bill. Here's this call from Eric Kester on, hey, write about renewables. And I'm like, okay, there's going to be a bigger mission to this. So that was the moment. And it really, people ask me, well, with the book, what's your final feelings in the book? I'm like, you know what? I feel like I committed to something and I carried through, and I did it for Bill. And if I had not sold even one book, I still would be very happy because I fulfilled my commitment to Bill, who was a lieutenant colonel in the Marines. So Cleola, thank you for your service. And, I'm happy that, I know if he was alive now, he'd be like, you committed, you follow through, you finished the mission. So yeah, that was my moment.
Would you say that you took the risk?
Yes, and I continue to take the risk, right? So we all took the risk, yes. Chains and this, right? Yes.
That was so beautiful.
Yeah. And Cleola, what about you? What was the moment that sparked everything for you?
Are you ready?
Yeah.
I don't hear my name. I don't hear you. Well, I had a lot of junk when I got out of the military. I mean, I saved everything, all my records. I got out. If anyone reads the book, they'll see that I voluntarily got out in 2003 because I'm kind of fed up with the situations that I had been experiencing. So for years, I had this stuff in all of my units, all of the memorabilia I have, if anyone knows anyone that's a military officer, all of the gifts and everything all over my house. And I might think about some of my experiences and talk about them with some of my friends. And we wouldn't be booing, but tears would be flowing out of our eyes as we talked about some of the experiences that we had gone through. But look, we're soldiers, so the outside world know that we're doing that, at least male and female. And one day I saw on television George Floyd die. And all of my friends that I met after his name is Lieutenant James Jones. It's so hard to see this man down the street being suffocated, begging for help and not getting it. And from that, I came to the realization that, look, I felt that way too, that I had so much to give and I was giving so much, but I felt like I was being held down so that I wasn't supposed to survive. So Mr. Jones and I talked about that over a number of days because we usually talk about politics, what's happening in the military, things like that. But he started telling me one day about his experience as a second lieutenant. And for people who don't know, second lieutenant's brand new. You're a civilian, and the first rank you get as an officer is second lieutenant when he was in Vietnam. That is chapter 1 of the book because I started writing experience. I could feel what he write in service of his country in a foreign land, in a jungle, and having a whole platoon under him that he's started writing the book, telling his story. But since we talk frequently, I started telling him some of mine. And that's when the whole book, Forged in Battle, African-American Officers. The two protagonists are myself and Mr. Jones. There are many officers that are around that influence what's happening in my book, some of them. And nearly all of them are alive and have read the book. So that's how it started. And that's where we are today. And thank you so much. Tom, I took the risk too. And it's working. Thank you.
Oh, well, just something very quick that I wanted to say about what you just described, Cleola, was I am the daughter of two Black veterans who are also officers. And so your book has a particular resonance to like my own identity. And like I wouldn't exist without, yeah. So that's just sort of an aside. So I guess for our next question,
Thank you.
what conversations do you both hope to start with your book? Because for both of you, it seems like conversations were what inspired you to write your books to begin with. So what kinds of conversations do you want to continue with your book?
Cleola, if you want to start. Yeah, ladies first.
Sure. Actually, there are three main things that I have thought of since I wrote the book that I want to accomplish. Number one, chapter 1 is Gallant Under Fire. Gallant Under Fire is a definition used in the military when a person receives a silver star. The word gallant there, you're probably not going to get the silver star. And if you read chapter 1, you will see that the lieutenant, well, you can decide, was the lieutenant gallant under fire or not? And if the conclusion is that he was, since he's now a retired colonel, I would like to see him get justice and get what I think he deserved, which was the Silver Star. I'm being more away on the first chapter, but I'm telling you, the book starts off with a bang. It starts in Vietnam with that lieutenant colonel. Then the second thing is, well, there's not too much. I'm retired, I'm happy, and I'm good. But for any in any way who has experienced what I define in that book that I truly experienced, I think we need to fix that. We need to fix that for them, the younger people, the people that are coming on behind me, so that they will not be crying 20 years after they got out of the Army for no reason. Because actually, you know, I was fine, other than the emotions that build up over the years kept leaking out. And then the third thing is, if the government is not going to fix it, then recognize that abuse through racism and discrimination is a real thing, and that we need to be somehow paid for that as part of post-traumatic stress. Because I didn't know I had post-traumatic stress. After all those years of crying, so many of us would go back and tell stories, and it would be so emotional, tugging at our heart, but we didn't recognize that as post-traumatic stress because we thought it was you're crazy, or you hear somebody fire a weapon and then you hide. But we found over the years, I guess someone has studied and found that what we were experiencing was post-traumatic stress, and there should be some way to remedy us that way. So really, not so much what can be done for me, but Mr. Jones, Mr. James Jones, Lieutenant Colonel retired, American hero, is still alive. And if some wrong was done to him as a second lieutenant, we right it. Let's fix it for the people behind us, the African-American officers that are serving now. And if not, recognize what you're doing and ensure that they get compensated.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I want to riff off of your second point, Cleola, and, it is about the next generation. And it is about, I think Mackenzie really said it well, it's about impact, right? How are we positively impacting the next generation of professionals, right? That we see a future in for our industries or our places of employment, right? Or a future as a country, right? So same thing with me. I think the two conversations that I'd like to spark and I think have been sparked are twofold. One is about traits, right? So my second part of my book, second phase of my book is all about traits, and the traits that really inspired these original risk takers to take risks, right? And to do really superpower kind of things in the renewable energy industry, and create impact that's reverberated, and really reverberated throughout the decades, right? To create careers just like mine today. And so it's been an interesting conversation, I would say, talking about which traits really are traits that empowered these folks, and how do we really inspire the next generation of renewables professionals to have those traits. So, Cleola, similar things, I think, to traits I know that you probably mentioned in your book, persistence, audacity, adaptability, foresight, so many of these traits that we do need to train and need to teach these young professionals who are coming in. The second thing that this book has really sparked conversation on, and continues to spark conversation on, is this whole sociological question of risk taking, right? What is a calculated risk? How do I assess a risk worth taking, right? And also not being afraid to take a risk and failing, and actually getting up from that failure and taking that failure and making it into something new and into something better. And that was I would say a story or a theme, or a theme that was evident in many of the stories that I covered in these interviews of these over 100 executives, right, who failed and got up and did something new and fresh with the failures they learned. So I would say those two things, they fit beautifully with what Cleo, I think, was speaking to, which is, how do we together as a nation take risks on these experiments? I mean, we're all in social experiments day in, day out. How do we work together to, create impact and create a country we're all proud of, that really picks each other up and really does take a risk on each other, and knowing that, a good risk will also come with, good rewards at the end of the day.
Thank you both for talking at length about, what your book's about, and really the conversation, because that's the core of the book, right? Is what conversations are we hoping to start? Because that's the point of us doing the writing and putting our work out there, right? And so what I would love to ask next, and kind of talk about, this is a great tangent, what both of you guys were saying coming into this next question, is what has been the most impactful, helpful responses you've received from readers so far? And this can be read in multiple ways. You can answer this question however you like. And a couple of the ways that I hear it is, what are the ways that you've been able to see that your work has made an impact? And then also, what are the ways in which your readers have impacted you? So there's multiple ways you can answer this question. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I'll kick it off. For many of you who are, in your book writing journey, right? One of the things that my development editor told me, and my marketing editor and versions editors told me also, was, hey, Tom, we don't have enough of you in the book. You're writing about all these other people, but where's your voice? You weren't just a wallflower on the wall. You're actually in these stories. We need your voice in this. And I'm a more humble person. I'm like, oh God, no one wants to know about me. They want to know about these executives who are now billionaires. Why do they want to know about me? But that piece of advice was something that has resulted in so many people coming up to me going, Tom, I loved your book because I could actually sit down. And it felt like I was having a breakfast coffee side chat with you. We're having coffee and we're talking about these stories, and it made all the stories so much more alive, and it made it relatable. And that was my goal, was to be able to give people this kind of a Cliff's Notes version of, hey, this is how you become a successful renewables professional. And I said that this kind of personal approach, and me, they felt like they were sitting in my shoes and looking out through my glasses, right, at all these conversations. And it really, that was the most, I would say for me, kind of eye-opening response that I've gotten from my readers, is that thank you for making this relatable and for having your voice there, because it was important. And that's something that I needed to hear, so yeah, that's I think my answer to that one.
That is high praise.
It definitely is. Highest praise you can never get. But now it's led to me having to voice my audiobook, and I'm like, oh God.
Right.
So now I have to listen to my own voice. Literally. I have to listen to my own voice now for 29 hours. So God help us all. But yeah. Well, Cleo, what about you? What was the response you've gotten to your book and from folks?
Well, the response has been tremendous. I had been known for a long time. Most people thought I was a school teacher. I don't know why, but I had a school teacher. Then when they found out military officer. They'd always talk to me about the Army, but I have become an author. And when I enter the room, they say, the author has entered the room. So that has been a tremendous change. And that I've been in contact with so many people that I didn't know. I mean, this person who did a little luncheon for me was 19 years old. And she said, I booked because I knew you're a mother and I figured I would support you. But I read it and I understood. She said, I don't know anything about the Army and figured I wasn't going to like it. But I opened the book one day while I was going through a procedure. And when the procedure was over, I was half done and I understood it and appreciated it. Now, following that, she had a luncheon for me at her house. I didn't know it was a luncheon. She invited me to lunch and had 4 other people there and had purchased 4 additional books. So what I really have appreciated from the book is that anyone can read it, understand it, and see part of themselves in it. It doesn't matter what your background is, it doesn't matter. You're going to see something in there about leadership or failure of leadership, something about abuse, unnecessary treatment of people, or great treatment of people, people who supported each other, people who supported me, people who pray, because there's a lot of prayer in the book, and people who persevere no matter what they're going through, they can do us and steadfast, persevering the situations. So I talk to people of other backgrounds, teachers especially. I don't know, I think they must go through their own combat because they really identify with going through a lot of stress and pressure and then coming back on top. But as I said, the youngest person probably that has approached me on the book was 12. I had a 16-year-old at my book launch and a 90-year-old that gave me a party. And then the oldest person that has invited me to her house so that I can sign her book is 94. Woo. So in between 12 and 94, the book touches some others and at different times. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's great. Kyra, you look like you have something you want to say.
I just want to say that both of your answers are just so awe-inspiring. Because all of us here are authors, so probably one of the most surreal aspects of your book being out in the world is watching, because you sort of are relinquishing the story out into the world, and you can't control what happens to it. So when it comes to fruition in ways you weren't even expecting, it's just so exciting. So to know that happened for you two is so wonderful. And it probably resonated with people in all the ways you hoped for and even more.
I'm really enjoying this continuous themes of pressure, responsibility, reward. And so with that is a great entry into our next question is, why is it important for authors to pursue accountability in the creative process? Because we know, like you were just saying, Cleola, it's a big responsibility going into your own personal battles, writing a book. that is definitely one that requires a lot of responsibility, dedication, accountability. So I would love to hear about your experiences with that.
Cleo, I don't know if you want to riff off of what you just said.
But writing the book itself, oh boy, well, I didn't know what I was doing. I came into New Degree Press with a whole lot of notes for, a number of different topics because I'm an expert of so many things, and decided, as I said, once I saw Mr. Floyd die, to go in this direction. Absolutely, coming into the Creators Institute was the key. I don't think I would have finished the book even now if I had not started that program. They convinced me that I could do it. They said other people have done it, and that meant automatically if other people have done it, I can do it too. And then just the guidance. Before we started, Kyra and John and so many other people who have guided us along. My MRE, Miko Marsh, was just tremendous. and my developing editor also, Angela. I mean, I could not have started without it. I mean, made it through without it. But as far as the important authors community, since I have been talking about the book, that has expanded. If you notice behind me, I keep doing that because there are a few other books on my desk. And there are other books that I've purchased from people in my cohort. And also I have, let's see if I can pull it up right here, a book right here that is The Optimizer from one of my people that I can mentor, John Saunders. So I feel like my cohort, I must support them. They have a tremendous amount to share with the world. Also, I've met other authors from other publishers who are just getting started as I was, who are kind of out here trying to do the best that we can market, and we're working together with it. So accountability, absolutely. We have to be accountable. Right. We should be putting out a good product, and couldn't have done that without Creators Institute and press, especially my MRE. My MRE, I mean, first, I think the woman is genius. Okay, I know she has written about 25 books. I did a little research on her. So well qualified and such a great mentor to me. But I keep coming back to you guys. The whole program, even though sometimes it was overwhelming, wasn't it, Tom? We still got so much out of what you were saying, right? That at the end, I could only say the best, the highest praise for the people like my Kyra who got me through this. I used to look forward, as a matter of fact, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say, if I didn't have a class that week, or if I missed that class, I was almost panicked. I haven't done MRE, and I haven't seen anybody from New Degree Press. So what am I going to do now? I mean, that is how much of baby's milk getting me through the process. So I met a lot of great authors. I appreciate everything you've done. You developed me, a logistician, into an author, and that is no little feat. Thank you.
I don't even know how to follow
up
on I don't know even how to follow up on something like this. Like,
I love that. Like, I'm a lot like you, Cleola. I'm the same way. I need those reminders. I need that community. I need people to remind me to work on my book, and encouragement, all that. I feed off of that. We are same wavelength.
Yeah, no, I would say same thing for me, right? So Asa Lowenstein was my developmental editor, and then Catherine Mazar was my MRE. And also what was really amazing, so 100%, I would say the sense of community, I very much looked forward to our weekly classes. And I think for me, it was kind of sad. Like, what was the most anticlimactic wasn't necessarily, receiving the books in the box and going, okay, this journey is over. But then like just the end of classes, and it kind of dropped off like a cliff drop. Like there are no more weekly sessions anymore, right? And I remember really missing that. And I think especially our cohort was so strong. And I loved our town hall sessions. I loved our library hours, right? And it really did help, and it held us accountable, especially the library hours. Just knowing virtually, especially in this post-COVID world, right? Knowing, even though we're all hundreds of miles apart from each other, we're still there together in the same phase of the book writing journey, right? I think that helped. Also I pushed back on my editors, right? I mean, obviously I was very diplomatic, but there were times when I did push back and they pushed back at me. And I think that's a very healthy part of the relationship. And I do encourage all those listening in, you can push back and have a really good intellectual conversation about why a section should stay in the book, why it should not stay in the book, you name it, right? And so I was really fortunate to have folks, I think that had a, that kind of healthy approach to, well, let's have a talk about it. What also meant a lot to me was also my layout editor was in Ukraine during the bombing and shelling. And for me to be writing with somebody who was working on my layout while there were bombs falling around them was just, for me, just made the whole Ukraine, conflict so much more alive to me, right? And then obviously being a marketer in my day job, I loved our design team, Georgi and Boyana and Nicola and all those folks in Eastern Europe. And being of Eastern European descent, I really was happy to support those folks, right, back in the homeland. So I would say that was what really kept me going and what held me accountable. And I think what surprised me, and this will be my last comment, I think what surprised me though overall, I didn't anticipate the accountability that happens after you publish your book, right? Your accountability to your readers, your accountability for the message you've delivered, right? Because you're not just dropping a message, dropping the mic and walking away, right? And I think naively thought, I'll publish this book, I'll do my Ruha, and that'll be it. But actually, by putting out your message, putting out your call to action, you're then responsible to continue that call to action. So like Cleola, for you, your message will reverberate for decades. Until you die, you'll still be the champion of your message in your book. And I think for the same thing for me, there will never be a day now where I will not be a champion for the message of my book or the call to action, for these future generations, right? So I think that's the accountability that shocked me at the end. Was I just wasn't, I couldn't fathom the amount of accountability I have now, which is a good thing, right? It's not a bad thing, but that's what did surprise me. I thought, okay, I'll be like I said, get the book out there, market the heck out of it, sell thousands of books, call it a day. But the journey is just beginning, actually. Yeah.
So beautifully said, both of you. We actually
there's something else I wanted to say.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, yes.
We kind of have a time lag, but I wanted to say also, Tom was in my cohort, as I said, and part of it was people like him would force you to go on because you're in class and it seems like you're so far behind. We all thought we were behind each other, and it just kept us going forward. Now, you try to tell us, Kyra, we weren't, but Tom is doing this because it's true. We're listening to other people say, oh, I didn't know that, or I didn't do that, which makes you say, well, I need to catch up to the rest of the cohort, which was a great effect. I don't know if you planned it that way, but it worked out. Tom, you're number one in my book. I've told you that.
Listen, I was just trying to beat Amy Dong. I'm like, I was in another manuscripts session with Shanna Heath, I think, talking about marketing, right, and sponsorship and doing these launch parties, and they said, well, who are you? I was like, listen, you guys presented Amy Dong as like who you want to who you want to be like. I'm like, listen, I'm gonna try to beat her, not in a bad way, but I'm like, that is my goal. How do I just beat her numbers and do that? So I think you guys did a great job of giving us inspirations, right? And again, maybe I'm using the word beat in the wrong way, inspiring us, right, to be like Amy Dong. Let me put it that way. So we're inspired, I think, to like kind of chase and really set our expectations high and go for the stars, right? Why not? And I was chasing Cleola, actually. I think a lot of the way she was ahead of me in a lot of our discussions and a lot of our phases.
I was chasing you.
Well, there we go. We're all chasing each other. It's a circular process. But no, at the end of the day, I think, having Amy there was great because you showed, okay, this is where you can go. And she really was an inspiration. So with all due respect to Amy, I was like looking at her numbers, looking at what she was doing, looking at her tactics, her strategy, and just trying to mimic it, right? And I think having folks like Cleola, like Amy, like both of you to mimic, right, was just really inspirational in a lot of ways. And we're all helping each other. Even after this book writing journey, I feel like we have lifelong friendships and connections. And it's just funny how life connects people across a variety of different venues. So I love you, Amy Dong. That's how I'm gonna add so she doesn't come after me. But I love Amy Dong, and she had she raised the bar high, and I know that Paula Doroff, I think, did really good on sales too. So now I have two amazing authors to mimic on a future book.
Somewhere Amy's ears are burning.
I know, she's like, oh gosh, that guy from Houston again chasing me. So yeah.
We've actually done 2 coffee chats with Amy, so it's great that you're bringing her name into this space. So it's so
there
cool.
We go. I'm giving her free publicity, free visibility for her book.
So, something else. Oh, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, something else. So, speaking of external accountability and community building, throughout our time together, we've had some audience members, and one audience member in particular, Samuel, has dropped a couple of really fun and engaging questions about the process. So, one question that Samuel asked is, so think back to the writing process. Roughly how many hours a day or how often did you write and or edit? Like how would you allocate your time during the book process?
I So I have a crazy daytime job. I have like a 14 to 16 hour kind of a daytime job. So I actually work on the weekends, and I was religious about it. I spent basically Saturday kind of digesting all of my research, putting together outlines for what I was going to write, and then Sunday, I would, after church, I would sit down with a coffee. And being here in Houston, Texas, we're very blessed with some days of non-humid weather, but I would sit on my deck and just type. And I would, before I knew it, the sun was setting, right? So for me, it was more of a weekend activity, but like saying no to parties, saying no to drinks, saying like, okay, I'm just going to write. And I would say the intensity of the writing was, for me, since we were a class, right? September to September. I would say from around the holidays in December to about March, April was where almost every weekend I was writing, and just being disciplined about it, and doing any kind of interviews or additional research along the way during the week for an hour or two.
Yeah, that routine and discipline is essential, and it doesn't happen overnight either. Like if you're ever wondering, like, how many hours should I be writing? Like, I don't know what intention you have with asking this question, viewer, but if you've got to start small and just say, okay, I'm going to start with 10 minutes a day, and if when your 10-minute timer goes off, you go, oh no, I feel like I could keep going. Or even if you're just staring at your screen for 10 minutes, you still sat down with the intention of working on the book. So it takes time to mold it, but it's essential to the process.
Definitely. And for the audiobook, right, I'm starting that process right now to have the audiobook out in February. And so I'm voicing it. And, but the best piece of advice I got was, again, from John Saunders, who I'm such a big fan of. And by the way, anyone on this call, John has been incredibly generous with his time. There's never been a time where he's like, no, I can't talk to you. And we've been brainstorming, and I got to meet him in person at my DC launch, which was it was the only person I've met in person from our cohort and from our experience, right? Even Eric couldn't make it. So having John at my book launch was just so special for me. But no, I would say, best piece of advice I got for the audiobook, which you can translate to this, was, Tom, do one chapter at a time. Do one chapter. When you tape record, do one, because if you do 2, 3, 4, you get exhausted, you start to cough, you start to mess up, then you have to re-edit. So I think the same kind of lesson can be here, is just focus one chapter at a time, or focus on one goal at a time, and just set aside time. And like you said, Mackenzie, start off with 30, 40 an hour, and if you need to take a break just to mentally, or just, at home, if you're at home typing, get up, do your dishes, come back, take those moments to kind of recharge. That's, I think it's just as important as time discipline is knowing your limits and knowing, and also this is supposed to be a process of joy. You're supposed to find joy in this. And I know, if you told me that in the middle of like revisions, I would have been like, oh, you got to be kidding me, right? What joy. But no, seriously, looking back though, it is a process of joy, and it's a celebration of yourself, and a celebration of whomever or whatever topic you're writing about, or in the case of me and Cleola, right, the individuals we were wanting to honor. So I would say have those moments of reality where you're like, listen, this is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be joyful. And you're doing this for a good cause, for impact, right?
What about you, Miss Cleola?
Okay, well, once I started writing, I was passionate about it. I cannot even give you how many hours a day I spent writing, because I couldn't get on. So I woke and I was like, okay, I'll have some tea, and I thought of something, I go in and start writing. And since my book is a memoir, it's just a lot of it is inside. So anytime I thought of an experience that I thought was interesting, I'd make note of it and start developing it and write it out according to how the class was guiding me along. But when we got to the point where we were the green light stage, I think that was 120 days in, I had over 70,000 words. So when I got ready to actually tailor the book, that's what I call it. I don't know what the official name is. I had a lot to work with, a lot to cut out. So if it's something that you're passionate about, Tom was saying how he was motivated. And when my case is something that I lived, you won't even think about the hours. Even when I was doing other things, I'll be thinking about I was going to put in that next chapter. If I was driving someplace, driving to another city, something would come to mind and say, let me pull over and write this down because I want to put that in there. And it was just the process. The process is complicated because, as I said, we're trying to build quality. We're first-time writers in my situation, and we want to make sure that the book is quality. But if you're writing on something that is passionate or something that you know that there's a message that needs to get out, it's flow out of you, whether you're sitting at work, sitting at home, whatever, it's going to flow. You're going to find yourself at work cheating and writing notes on about what you want to put in your book. So that is not a hard part. It's I would say the toughest part you're looking for is meeting what seems to be time of time, the maximum use of the time that you do have. If it's 2 hours, make sure that you're sitting there doing something. I would say don't sit there and look at this. Okay, I want to put this in the book, and I think this should fit with these characters. That kind of maximum use of your time. Not so much how much time, but write everything, and then make sure that what you're doing when you do sit down to write, that it's doing something that you think you can put in your book. Let's put it that way.
And also, Otter is your best friend. Like, especially if you're writing a book that's composed of interviews.
Hello.
I had Otter on one screen, right, or on my telephone, and then I was typing on the other. And it was great because in many ways, my writing style is conversational, so it really helped. So, kudos to Otter. And I've continued to use Otter even at work here moving forward, just in terms of being able to recap conversations and things like that. But in many ways, people write their own stories through talking through an interview, right? So for me, it was great to be able to use Otter. So, best thing ever. I think Otter is one of the best inventions out there.
Yes, agreed. And I've dropped the web address to that in the comments as well. So we have time for one more question. So I've decided that we're going to go with a fun one. And I like this question. What is your favorite genre of fiction? Because there are just about a million. A little bit of something for everybody. Would love to know your thoughts, including you, Kyra.
I like my favorite fiction, Agatha Christie.
Fiction.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, Cleola.
There's a little bit of a lag. Cleola, why don't you start?
Mm-hmm.
No, I couldn't hear it. Yeah, we're overlapping each other. So you were talking.
Okay, I can go first. So for me, it was murder. It was mystery, right? And I am an immense fan of Agatha Christie. And I'm an immense fan of the Miss Marple series for Agatha Christie. I can never get into Poirot. I don't know why, but in my mind, having this vision of this little old British lady in this little village of St. Mary Mead solving crimes based on folks she knew. I mean, I ate it up. I've read every single Agatha Christie Miss Marple book there is to be had, and I was really disappointed after the 70th book that there was no more. So so anyway, that's my fiction love. Yeah,
That's so wholesome. What about you, Miss Cleola?
Okay, so if this is a genre, I guess it would be something like a family book where at the end there, where the family goes through something, but at the end there's so I don't know if it's called a happy ending book, a genre, but something through something and survive, and it's a happy ending at the end of the family. So a lot of what they call girls books out now, where women are doing things together and go on trips or are very close and go through adventures together. I don't know what genre you call that either, but those are pretty good too if you just have something heavy on your mind and you want to relax.
Yeah, Cleola, there's a genre called family life fiction that exists. And then also, I think it sounds like you love a good voyage and return story.
Yep.
I do think
That makes
book
sense.
recommendation for you, Cleola. I think you would really like The People We Keep by Allison Larkin. It's just a little recommendation for you. Okay, Kyra, what about you?
I have it.
I am a speculative fiction junkie. I love speculative
No.
fiction.
I had no idea.
You had no idea. It was a mystery this whole time. I don't know. I think any book that makes me feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone by Rod Serling, anything that's like that. Most of the speculative I especially enjoy tends to
Oh
be
my
more
goodness.
dystopian. But I love speculative fiction because I feel like the speculative enables us to tell stories that are more true. We're not held back by what's real. So that's why I love it so much.
I'm
What
with you
about
on
you,
that one.
Mackenzie?
I'm with you because I'm a fan of magical realism. So, you take the real world and you give it a little bit of spice, you give it a little bit of magic, you give it a little bit of what if, right? And I also just love contemporary fiction, things that are set in just like it's like fiction based on real life. For me is something that I really enjoy. Great question. Great conversation. I've enjoyed hanging out with you guys today. We do have one final, parting words to the authors watching in the audience. We would love to know, Cleola and Tom, you have any final words of wisdom for the aspiring authors, current authors out in the audience?
Cleola, do you want to go first?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I do have some final word for you. Don't quit. When we start, just like anything in life, continue to push through. Just like anything, any challenge, it will seem like you will not get there. But I can tell you, when the printer sends the books and you receive them on your front porch, it will be worth everything you're going through day by day. It really is. And even before that, when you send it to copy editing, that's going to be a time for you, since I don't drink, to go out and have a big cold glass of orange juice, because what a relief. But you have to be intense and you have to be focused and determined that you're going to get there. And everything isn't smooth, but shouldn't be. It shouldn't be smooth. You're getting a lot of great guidance. Don't quit. Don't do it. If there's a deadline, meet the deadline, because at the end, it will be worth it. The word author means so much to me. I didn't realize it would, but it has changed my life. So go for it. Tom?
Yeah. So two thoughts. I'm going to cheat. I'll do two thoughts, but I'll be quick. I would say the first one is, when you're in their pre-sale period, for us, it was April. Just go gangbusters. It's going to be miserable. You're going to have to push through, but you're going to be very happy at the tail end of it. And if people come to you afterwards, and say, "Oh, I missed your window," blah, 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 be ready with a website, right? So be ready with a website, or be ready with a form where you can go, "Not a problem for missing it. Fill out this form and I'll contact you the minute, sales are available," right? So think ahead on that point. And then second point is, be really kind to your revisions editor, and I'm sorry, to your copywriting editor. I love Amanda Brown. She is amazing. I was terrified of her when she had our, the first chat about, it's going to cost you X amount if you're late, or if you make changes and don't make changes, that weren't in there before, right? I was terrified of her. But, I had a situation where one of my interviews came back and wanted to rewrite the whole chapter. And she's like, "That's not going to happen." And so she actually coached me on how to go back to this executive who's a billionaire and say, "No, I'm not going to rewrite this whole thing because you want to sound a lot better," right? So, and this was me doing an all-nighter while I was on a business trip in Lisbon, right? So we had the time difference and the whole thing, and she guided me through the whole thing. So I just want to do a shout out to Amanda Brown. And again, just be very nice to our copywriting folks, because it's not an easy job they have, and they really are looking out for your best interests. And so much love to Amanda Brown specifically.
They're there to make you sound good.
Exactly.
Kyra, you're
1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you both so much. I mean, obviously, thank you to Mackenzie too, because she's just always awesome. But thank you both to our guests. I learned so much from you guys today. I learned so much from you guys while you were going through the process. And I'll just continue to learn from you guys as your author journeys continue to flourish. So, again, thank you so much for your time. And feel free to come back and, sip some coffee and tea with us. Sip some coffee, spill some tea, as Cleola said earlier.
That should be our new tagline.
I think that's a tagline right there. That's a tagline. And for any of you folks here in Texas, I know Mackenzie's in Texas. Amanda is also Texan. Feel free. Come by Houston. We love all our visitors. Come for some good Tex-Mex, but keep in there. And I can tell you that my life has been enriched because of folks like Cleola. So thank you to New Degree Press and the Creators Program for just putting us in touch. I mean, really lifelong friendships and people we can support.
This is so wholesome. Well, to both of you, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful one.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Happy
Kyra. Thank you, Mackenzie. Love.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much, Mackenzie.
Happy holidays.
Take care. Bye.
All right, beautiful people. Was that not just one of the most wholesome conversations like you could ever imagine?
Great way to end a year.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, the next time we come back, we will be in 2023. Holy smokes. That is a great way to end the year. But if you guys want to contact us, you'll see our handles, little dancing along the bottom of the screen there. If you guys have any particular topics that you want us to cover, or if there's any particular author that you want us to talk to, do not hesitate to drop it inside of the comments below. We do read those comments, and we do try to incorporate as much as we can into the oncoming schedule. So, as Cleola and Tom said, happy holidays. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys are great. So, thank you so much to Samuel who joined us. Thank you so much to Mage who joined us. So always.
We appreciate you all.
We appreciate you all, and stay happy, healthy, and safe. Bye, everybody.
Have a wonderful rest of your December.
Oh my gosh. And Happy New Year.